I'm going to talk about Digital Boost. Digital Boost is a program which, if I move forward one slide, you'll see here, is delivered by Business Gateway in Scotland. It's a program which is, as the name suggests, about helping organisations with their digital issues, their digital media and related matters. We have a total of 5 workshops at the moment. One you're going to see a brief part of today, which is digital marketing, but there's also data analytics, digitize your business processes, e-commerce and LinkedIn. That's 5 workshops today. There'll be another 5 over the next few months. So by the end of the year, there'll be a total of 10 workshops in the program, in the Digital Boost program. If you want to know more about the program, come along to the website. That's the address down the bottom there, businessgateway.com/Digital Boost. The same address is on this little sign on my right. Amongst other things you'll find there is a self-assessment tool, which lets you work your way through to see how digitally aware your business is or how much you know in terms of digital media, and perhaps will give you some advice about how you can improve your knowledge and experience, including coming along to the many free workshops, the 10 I've described, that we run. Today we're going to focus just briefly on some of the areas we talk about in terms of digital marketing. In particular, our experience is that people often find digital marketing a lot of hard work, and understandably it can be a lot of hard work, but that there are shortcuts, there are ways to do your digital marketing more smartly than perhaps all of us do at the moment. And I'm going to try and give you some of the smart ideas, particularly in terms of content, digital marketing content. Digital marketing sits within the communication strategy, which could be on and offline, and that in its turn is part of your business strategy. So we like to think of digital marketing as part of a logical part of the business strategy of every organisation. Over the years, and I have been involved in digital marketing and e-commerce for 20 years, it's a long time. It's back the dinosaur days when I started. Over the years, there's been a big change. There's been a move away from pushing information at people. In other words, old-fashioned marketing. You must think I'm wonderful, you must come and buy from me, here's my organization. That's all you need to know. It's changed. People now want dialogue, and they want you to build trust. And it's important to build that trust using your digital marketing. And there are ways to do that. And it's quite often very easy to make a mistake and not get it right. But we believe there are simple steps you can take. An example of how perhaps not to get it right is this one here, which is a perfectly good organisation running a very successful Facebook page, which is the Green Welly Stop. They market successfully a lot of whiskies, and as you can see in the little red box there are 13,900 people who like this organisation, who are, if you like, followers of the Green Welly Stop. That sounds like a great success, in which case, when they won the Icons of Whiskey Award in 2016, you would have thought a lot of people would have been congratulatory to them. At least a good proportion of that 13,000 people would have said, well done guys, keep up the good work. But in fact, only 17 did. And in analysing this, we see one of the issues that people have with digital marketing, which is that although they're actively producing material all the time, they're not responding to their customers. Here you can see a couple of comments, typical comments from a couple of customers, a Leslie McVeigh saying how wonderful they are, a Philip Scott telling them what great products they have. I personally think that Philip Scott has got it. I wouldn't give him anything at all because he can't spell the word whiskey, but then that's a personal thing. I always think you have to be able to spell the word whiskey if you want to live in Scotland. This is typical of the kind of comments they're getting, but what's happening is that they're not responding. In other words, the Green Welly Stop have an opportunity here to respond to people who are saying great things about them and their Facebook presence, but they're not responding. They're not saying anything at all. And that is the mistake I think they're making. They should be commenting, and commenting positively, not just liking, but commenting positively. And if doing so, they will get up the numbers of the audience who support them, who actually come along and say positive things on a more regular basis. It's a simple thing to do, but it's part of the being smart part of digital marketing. We will look in detail in our main workshop in steps at creating content, publishing content, and amplifying content. Traditionally, people have been very good at the amplification. In other words, they know how to get themselves onto search engines. They push themselves hard through social media, but they don't always think as hard as they might do about creation and publication, in particular content creation. Content is far more important than where you put it. If you say the right things, people will find you. If you put the wrong things in the right place, you're doing yourself no good. It's getting that content which is the hard part, and often very time-consuming. So we believe there are routes that you can use to make life a bit easier if you're creating content for your own organization. First of all, you need to think about the sort of ABC of this, if you like. You need to think about who your audience is, who are your online customers, what do they need you for, and what products and services are they buying? Because if you create the right content, you'll have that in your mind all the time. Secondly, how do they use the internet? What kind of websites do they prefer? What social media do they use? Do they use mobile devices, for example? Up to about November of last year, on average, mobile devices accounted for less than 50% of the visits to websites and social media sites in the UK. Well, now the figure is over 50%. And my guess would be it might be 55% by the end of this year. It might be 60% by the end of next year. It's growing very fast. So if your digital presence, whether it's a platform like Facebook and LinkedIn, or whether it's your website, whether that presence doesn't accept mobile devices or doesn't give somebody with a mobile device a good experience, then you're making a mistake, because that's what's changing and people are moving that direction increasingly fast. Also, you need to think in terms of content, what people are looking for, what information they need, and particularly this point about trust that I made. It's an interactive element, and it's trust. People have to believe you and believe in you before they'll buy from you. How can you give them content that will make that happen? I think a key part of that is understanding why people come to websites and social media platforms. What are they there for? We often assume that people who are coming to our website, particularly, are about to make some kind of buying decision. They're about to buy from us, they're about to place an order, they want to know how to contact us. And that's true of a small proportion. But by far the biggest proportion of people coming to a website or a social media platform are looking for answers, very much like you do. You're all users of the web yourselves. You go out, so you know what it's like to search on the web. You tend to be looking for answers to questions. At a point, you may actually be able to buy something, you may want to buy something, but up to that stage, you're looking for answers. And about 80% of people who come to your website or your social platforms will be looking for answers to questions. And it's always a dichotomy. How much do I give away? If I tell people all the answers, they may not want to buy from me. In any case, my rivals are looking at my website. My rivals are looking at my social media platforms. If I give lots of information to customers, then I'm giving away the family silver. The risk you have to take is to do just that. Because the chances are that people who get good information from your website will come back and buy from you because you've helped them, because they trust you, because they believe in you, because you haven't just pushed information at them, because you've become part of the information explanation process. That's what they're looking for. Therefore, you've got to take that little risk and produce content that works for them. You can have a combination of content. You'll have content which is about the promotional side, in other words, converting interest into an actual sale. Sales by giving them information about products and services, sales based on things like testimonials and biographies. Testimonials are particularly strong. We are used to seeing on the web comments by ordinary people like us about products and services. We go to places like Amazon or TripAdvisor and we expect to see other people's reviews of products and services. We like and trust that. And therefore, if you've got testimonials and a place for testimonials to go onto your website, and you'll certainly get them on Facebook and other social media anyway, then that gives more trust, it produces more trust amongst your visitors and people who potentially could become your customers. On the social side, you're creating interest. You're giving information like news, updates, downloads, advice, tips and tricks, all these kind of things. These are the information that people are looking for. They may eventually come back and buy from you, but they're just shopping first. They're looking around and they need answers. They're more likely to come back to the person who gives them answers than the person who doesn't. That's why we suggest you create content which is informational. But you don't have to do all the work yourself. you can get content from a variety of different sources. So you're sitting in the middle here, you're the kind of key product or service person, you're trying to think about how can I market myself better. Think about where you can go for information without necessarily having to invent it, create it, develop it yourself. Think about news and updates. Other people produce news and updates all the time. Can you refer your customers to those news and updates? Can you get those news items and updates, a story about them, onto your website or into your platform? Think about things like free downloads, advice and tips. You know more than anybody else knows about your product, your service. You can tell people a great deal. Yes, there's a risk attached, but if you help them, if you point them in the right direction, they will be more supportive. That's the trust we want you to establish. And it's material you've got anyway, material you know about, material you can produce quite quickly for your website or social media platform. One particularly strong area is the area of images. Now, increasingly, people are using images more and more on the web and social media. An image, as in the famous line, a good picture can tell you 1,000 words, or can take the place of 1,000 words. Images are very powerful in getting over a message and explaining to people what you do, what your product looks like, what it does. In a very simple image, particularly image with a caption, you can say a lot. How do you get the images? Basically, there are a number of options, and we suggest you think about all three. First, you could use a professional photographer, and these guys can give you good results quite quickly and quite inexpensively, and they will take very good quality photographs. Of course, we all have, or tend to have, mobile phones, and mobile phones come with surprisingly good cameras. We can take photographs ourselves. If we're not great at taking photographs, then maybe think about a professional photographer, but that's an option, and it's better than nothing. At least you've got a picture which you can show people of your product or your service, or we can go shopping online and buy images. There are plenty of images available online, and a lot of images are available free of charge. There are dozens and dozens of websites that will provide you with pictures, images, which are downloadable and cost nothing at all. Some might require that you give a name or a reference to their website or to the person who's taken the photograph, but we're talking here hundreds of thousands of photographs that are free of charge. You can use those on your website, your social media. So you can get somebody else to take the photograph, take it yourself, or buy a photograph that's already been taken, or just use a photograph that's already been taken. Now, we don't recommend you use a photograph that doesn't have a copyright-free statement on it. If it's copyright-free and you can use it, then certainly do. But otherwise, be cautious. You may end up being sued by somebody. Increasingly, video is very important, and again, we tend to have video cameras on our mobile phones, so we're used to being able to take video. People are finding video more and more valuable when it comes to using social media. Something like 80% of the downloads and time spent on Facebook now are all about video. If you're a Facebook user yourself, you'll know that you use video all the time. And you're watching video all the time. Your customer expects video. We don't want a big video. We want a video maybe 2 minutes to 10 minutes at the very most. 2 or 3 minutes is ideal. You can make your own video. You can very quickly find low-cost or free software that will add music, will add captions. You can be your own voiceover, or you can find somebody who might be a more competent voiceover than you are. But you can get a lot of messages over very fast in a video, and people are using video far more. When I started 20 years ago, it wasn't possible to think about video. Not only was video making much more complex, but you could not see and download video on the web because you didn't have fast enough broadband. Nowadays, we all have, or most of us have, very fast broadband, and we're used to downloading substantially big chunks of video on a regular basis. So make video, use video. It's very powerful and will only get more powerful. And it's particularly useful when somebody is coming and looking for your information from you on a mobile device, because a mobile device can be quite tricky in terms of reading lots of words, but images and video, that works great. People can see a lot, get a lot from it. So in terms of content, we advise you try and go in this direction if you can. We also advise that nobody tries to do everything all the time. Too many people I talk to say, I'm being overwhelmed by the social media for our organization. We've got Facebook, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Twitter. We really can't keep up. I'm trying to manage all these things. And by the way, I'm also trying to manage my business too. I do know people who spend a day, 2 days a week on their social media. Well, it may pay back. You may get business back from that. But we'd recommend you're a bit smarter about it. Don't try and do everything. Here's a very simple schedule. You'll find this on the Digital Boost website. Very simple schedule saying why not think about just concentrating on one activity for maybe 3 months? Think about all your products. Maybe I work for a company that sells red, green and blue widgets and widget holders. So maybe for just 1/4 of the year, I'll disregard the red ones and the green ones. I'll just do blue widgets and nothing but blue widget. And I'll talk about blue widgets. I'll provide activity about blue widgets. I'll get everything I have in terms of social media activity and website activity concentrated on one of my products or services for that period of time. And then at the end of that period of time, I can forget about that and move on to something else, because that gives me a chance to put a lot of effort behind one particular thing, and it means I'm spending my time more sensibly. I'm not trying to do everything all the time for everyone. So try and think in terms of scheduling if you possibly can. Also think about whether you need to create the material yourself. Now, we've talked about with images and video how you can use other people to create for you, or you can create yourself. But in terms of the content, often a lot of it's to do with words. Now, you may think that the best bloggers and people who create social media in the world are guys and women who spend a lot of time creating lots of words and lots of images. The answer is actually no, they don't very much. What they do is they spend a lot of time finding somebody else who's created good words, images and videos and referring you to them. So the message here is your content conception, which is the bit where you created it yourself, might only be 10% of your time and effort, and that's what we learn from the experts. These guys only spend 10% of their time actually creating. The other 90%, they do what we call content contribution or curation. By curation, I mean I point you at a story. I say, look at this website, there's a great story here about our product market, things we do. Here, look at this website, look at this news story on the BBC. It's very relevant. It's all about the products we produce, all about the market we're in. And I advise you about that. So, for example, our little organization, we produce tweets on a very regular basis, and often our tweets are pointing people at stories that we think will be relevant to them because we know what kind of stories they want. And content contribution is when basically somebody else writes the story for you. Maybe you interview them. Maybe you ask them if you can use their story on your website or your social media. And again, there are a lot of people out there who don't mind their stories being as it were, used all around the web because it gets their name across and their message across. So don't always try and do it yourself. The two messages then here are try and get good content, get the good content if you can from somebody else rather than doing it all yourself, and schedule your time, schedule your promotional activity, get behind certain stories over a short period, but not trying doing it forever, because otherwise you'll get caught up and the time will slow you down. I'll give you an example here of an imaginary site selling wedding dresses. So imagine I'm a wedding dress retailer. I could have done with being a wedding dress retailer because last year my daughter got married and it was hellish expensive. So, but it would have been nice if I'd have been a retailer, but I wasn't. I was paying the bill instead. Imagine this person who's a wedding dress retailer. Let's imagine that they want to increase the amount of stuff they say, material they put on their websites, on blogs, on social media. How would they go about that? Well, this imaginary wedding dress seller will maybe write a few stories themselves. So top left hand there is a story that I might have written about bridal trends in the spring and summer of 2016. It'll be completely different from every other year. It'll be white and fluffy, nothing like any other bridal dresses have ever been before. So that's my story, and I tell the story and I provide that story up there. But I also want to get other people's stories. Why would I have to do all the work myself? So down here, what I'm doing is I'm pointing people at other locations, websites, social media, other places where they can find, in this case, 7 of the best wedding planning apps. Now, if you're talking to people who are interested in wedding dresses, they're probably going to be interested in wedding planning apps as well. So you're providing them with a story. You're doing no work yourself. Somebody else has already created this page. All you're doing is pointing people at it. You're signposting it. And on the right-hand side, I'm working in wedding dresses. Well, probably I've got colleagues or partners who work in other areas. Maybe somebody who's a wedding planner would like to put some information about their service on my website. Oh, in exchange, they'll perhaps put some information about my services on their website. So I produce a story from them. Or somebody who's experienced in handling wedding rings, so a jeweler, but also knows how to clean rings and how to manage them, maintain them over time. So there's a story that that person can tell that can go on my website or social media, and a story that I probably want to tell that will go with them too. So the simple message is here: don't do it all yourself. Get the material from other people. Believe me, we went through the stage ourselves in our organisation of doing that, of trying to do it all ourselves. And we can write pretty good stuff, and we can write some good material, and we get some good images and videos, but it's a struggle. Everybody knows the story of the newsletter. The first newsletter is easy to produce. The second newsletter is a struggle, and most organisations don't bother with a third. They just can't find more material because the news material is usually there in front of you, and it's hard to find anymore. Okay, having told you the story, let's recap on what I've said. First of all, think about what content is relevant to your audience and useful to them, because you may be wanting to tell them about you all the time, but they want to know about them. A little message I use for people writing for websites and social media is every time you use the word we, us, I, you must use the word you 5 times. And the reason I say that is because if I'm the recipient, I'm reading your story on your website, I'm reading your social media, I want it to be relevant to me. And the word you means, well, that's relevant to me. If you write about yourselves and what you do and what's wonderful about you, me, what's wonderful about me, I and us, then I'm no longer closely involved. So do think about that. Make it relevant to your customers. Keep me as a customer engaged. Give me information I want so that I will come back. I'll respect the fact that you've given me data, information and knowledge that I wouldn't get elsewhere, and I'll come back, and when I want to make a purchase, it'll be from you. Try to think about creating the content and publishing it over a short period. Concentrate on one part of your business for 3 months and then leave it aside and concentrate on something else. Target what you're trying to do over a short period. And think about, do I have to create all this myself? Is it all about my conception? No, it's not. Curation and contribution. Curation being pointing people at other websites and social media that have great stories. Contribution, when I get interviews, when I get information from other people that I can publish on my website. Try to go about it the easy way if you possibly can, because otherwise you'll find social media and digital marketing a struggle. With a few tips here, I hope we made life maybe a bit easier for you. Come along to the Digital Boost website. You'll find us at gateway.com/Digital Boost. Learn more about the free workshops we run. They're longer than the one we've had today. It's only half an hour. And learn more about the self-assessment tool we offer you. And thank you all very much for your time. Bye now.